Hello, folks, and welcome to our Dev Degree Developer Life session. Where are you all joining us from? Say hello. I see one person has chimed into the chat. Jump on and tell us where you are. My name is Curtis. I work on the Dev Degree team, and I am in Toronto, Canada right now, where today we got our first snowfall. And I'm excited because there's people who are joining us in Dev Degree who are in a place where it doesn't snow. So I can look at their background and wish I was there. So hello, folks joining us from Maryland, from Minnesota, from Nigeria. I think they have snow in Nigeria, right? Michigan, Edmonton, welcome. Awesome. Please keep telling us where you are joining us from. We love to see it. And as you are introducing yourselves, I'm going to ask our panelists to share where they are joining us from, except I'm going to be a nerd. I'm from Newfoundland originally. So, James, welcome from Labrador. Super cool. Awesome. So, my name is Curtis. As I said, I'm on the Dev Degree team. I currently lead a team of instructors and student success specialists who help our interns in their first year in the Dev Degree program. We have assembled a group of developers, of current Dev Degree interns, and folks on our Dev Degree team who are going to talk all about their experiences. So let's get started. First, I'm going to give an opportunity for our panelists to introduce themselves, give a little bit of context on who they are, their role at Shopify, and the perspective that they bring with them to our program and in their life as developers. So, folks, I'm going to pick one of you developers to introduce yourself, who you are, where you are in the world, what your role is at Shopify, and what that actually means. And maybe tell us a little bit about your career path. I'm going to start with my favorite Dev Degree alumna on the call, which is Lulu. Lulu, introduce yourself, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Lulu. I'm currently located in Ottawa, Canada, and I do not have snow yet, but it is scheduled to come tonight, and I am very sad about that. I am a senior production engineer at Shopify, specifically on the database platform team. So, kind of just breaking down what that really means is that me and my team work together to make our MySQL databases as performant, reliable, and resilient as possible. A little bit of an elevator pitch of kind of like my career growth and where I started. I have somewhat of, I want to say, like a bit of an untraditional path where in high school, I really did not know what I wanted to do in terms of my career, but I did have a very strong curiosity for tech and computers, specifically about how they worked, and I was very intrigued in how much computers have changed our lives and how much we've relied upon them to do amazing things. And so I really wanted to be a part of that, and I applied to the Dev Degree program, got accepted to it, and that's really where my journey started. I didn't really have that much experience going in, so there was a lot of learning at Shopify. Um, and so during my time at Shopify, I worked on a bunch of different teams, varying from like backend, front end, security, production engineering, and I was really able to explore all of my interests and really get to see what I really saw myself doing in the future. And that's where, after I graduated from Dev Degree, I landed my full-time position that I'm currently holding, which is the production engineer at Shopify. And so that's kind of a TLDR of what my path has looked like. Curtis, do you want me to pick someone else?
No, because I'm going to pick somebody else, Lulu. I've
Cool.
got a plan. I've got a plan for our time. So this session is all about understanding, what the day-to-day life is for a developer and all of the different paths to get there. And I know that Karen has had a completely different path than Lulu. So Karen, could you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, what you do, and what your journey was?
Hi, Curtis. Yes, and hi, everyone. Yes, my career path was a little different. It was a little more traditional, if you'd put it that way. to start off, I'm Karen. I'm a developer at Shopify, just a short title that way. I work on backend at Shopify, which basically means I deal with server-side code, um, and I'm part of the post-fulfillment team. And it's a bit convoluted to say, but it basically just means I work on returns, exchanges, and refunds. So if you bought something from a Shopify merchant and they handled the return for you, it probably touched a bit of what I worked on. A bit about how I got to where I am today. I was finishing up CEGEP, which is sort of college in Quebec, if you will, and I wasn't sure what to do, and I gave computer science a try, thinking that maybe my passion lied in something I never touched before. So I gave it a shot for university, and turns out I did enjoy it. I would actually stay at school longer to do my assignments and invest in myself in the programming slash developer community at school. So I joined societies like the Software and Computer Science Club. I attended a lot of hackathons. I even hosted one for a school that garnered over 700 students across different parts of the country. So yeah, I really enjoyed myself in school, and I realized, hey, I could maybe do this thing and keep going at it for a living. I did internships as well, which is how I started at Shopify actually. And from there on out, I liked it, and they liked me enough to keep me. So here I am, a bit over 2 years later, still at Shopify.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Ashwin, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, my name is Ashwin. I'm based in Toronto at the moment. I'm a fourth year dev degree intern at Shopify. I'm currently on my last placement as a mobile developer on Shopify's Inbox app, which is an app that allows merchants to communicate with customers. And what this role means for me is that I get to build out a bunch of the client features on the Inbox app that merchants interact with. So my path into CS was pretty traditional. I grew up with two parents who are both software engineers, so naturally that had to come to me. From a young age, I was always around tech and computers, and I really got into CS through my high school computer science courses. And from there, I really enjoyed web development. That was like my first foray, and starting off with like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. And then since then, I just started building out things for problems that I saw, whether it was like a to-do list app for myself or building out my own personal website or something like that. And from there, I just really liked the feeling once you solve the problem and the impact that it had on people. So in grade 12, I applied to Shopify. I loved the interviews that I had with the company, and I got in. And then since then, I've continued to learn a bunch of the new technologies and tools that we use at Shopify across so many different areas. And here I am.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashwin. And the last developer on the call, Brooklyn, let's hear a little bit about your experience.
Hello, my name is Brooklyn Dippo. I am a dev degree intern on my first placement. I am working on the front end of Shopify Email. Shopify Email is an app that's mission is to help merchants send the right message to the right customers at the right time. And so everything that we're doing is just trying to make email automations and email campaigns a lot simpler for merchants. And it's a really exciting team to be on. It's a small team, and I've gotten to work closely with backend engineers, work very closely with UX. And even in just the first few months, I've had the opportunity to like come up with my own idea and ship it to production. So it's a very fun team. How did I get into computer science? My dad was a software engineer back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. And he retired by the time I was like in kindergarten or first grade. So I actually, even though that was his life, I didn't see that much of it. And so I didn't have any exposure to it all the way through high school. It wasn't offered. I went to school in South Texas, and it just wasn't a class that was offered there. And so I got my first degree. I worked actually in education policy. Then I wanted to have more of an impact, so I started working directly with students, and I worked as a college counselor for about 6 years. And then around the time just before the pandemic started, I realized that like my impact was great, but small, and I wanted to be able to work with more students. And one of the things that was a barrier to that was the software in the industry. It was clunky, it was old, it was not user friendly for myself or for my students. And so I decided that I wanted to build something better. And I figured out very quickly that I couldn't afford to hire a developer. So I decided to go back to school and become one. And very fortunately, fell into the Shopify Dev Degree program as a part of that.
Awesome. Love that, Brooklyn. You see a problem and you want to solve it with software. Very important skill to have as a developer. So folks are on to me. There are only 4 devs on the call, but there are other people lurking in the background, including Danielle, who is on the Dev Degree team. Danielle, you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, folks. You are correct. I am not a developer here at Shopify. I do work on the Dev Degree team closely with Curtis as a student success specialist. So if you do join Dev Degree, you'll be working very closely with me for your first 8 months here.
Awesome. And where are you right now, Danielle? Because I see sunlight, which is the opposite of what I see out my window.
I am very fortunately in Vancouver in British Columbia.
Awesome. And the person you don't see on the call is our recruiter, Tristan, who is actually lurking in the background. He is watching this call. He's probably been in touch with many of you, and he will moderate the chat and help us pull out some of your questions over the course of our time together. So the way this is going to work, there he is in the chat. Hey, Tristan, is we're going to ask a couple of questions of each of our panelists to start. A little bit about their journey and experience and what a developer does. And then we put together a series of questions that you submitted to us. And we'll kind of take turns asking different folks on the panel to engage on those questions. So first, we're going to get started hearing from Karen again. And Karen, I'd love to hear your perspective on what a software engineer or developer does on a day-to-day basis.
Thanks for the question, Curtis. So on a day-to-day basis, if it's like a normal day, you'll most likely just be coding and maybe that's it. A week, if I tell you about a week though, it does encompass a little bit more like meetings throughout your day. And those meetings can sometimes be with other developers. Sometimes you're trying to resolve issues together. We sometimes call it pairing as well. So you can have those. You can also have meetings with people who are non-developers, like product managers or UI UX designers. That can also happen. But yeah, most of the day is really spent coding, if not. And there's, I say coding, but there's parts of it that is not exactly just writing code. Sometimes you're reviewing code, but it's related to coding. So that's also a big part of the job. If anything, you'll probably end up reviewing more code than you write in your life, because it's actually very time consuming. So it's a lot of everything, always surrounded by software in some sort of way. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And what's your favorite part of being a developer, Karen?
My favorite part, I think I like that it's not magic, if that makes sense. Like sometimes you look at it from the outside and you think it's magic, but it's not. It's more like solving puzzles. Once you understand the different pieces, you kind of understand how the puzzle fits together, and it's satisfying to put that puzzle together. So I think that's mainly why I enjoy it, and I think others might feel the same way too.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's magic, but I'm really happy to hear that you know that it's not magic, Karen. That's a good sign. Awesome. Brooklyn, I would love to throw it to you right now. How much experience would you say you need to start as an intern or as a junior employee?
None at all, especially in dev degree. But truly, even if you don't get into dev degree, there are so many different paths to becoming a developer. One of the most exciting things for me was figuring out that with a very small toolkit, you can still build a lot of things. So one of the projects that I built, I don't know, maybe 15 months ago, very, very early in my coding career, is a project that I've continued to refactor, which is just changing the code using new frameworks and simplifying it, making it reusable, componentizing things. And every new thing I learn, I go back to that same project and I keep rewriting the same code over and over again. And truthfully, it doesn't look that different to the user, but it's better and more resilient code in a lot of other ways. But with a very, very small toolbox, you can still build a lot of things. So you don't need that much to get started.
And how much experience did you have again before you joined the program?
Not at all. I had never coded a single thing in my life. I actually just kept reading like essays from students I was working with about coding, and they talked about it like it was magic, and they were so enthusiastic. And I was like, I got to try this. And yeah, very, very quickly, within my first month, I like built a really fun game that I don't know, maybe I could sell for 99 cents on the App Store.
That's 99 cents you couldn't sell like a year and a half ago, Brooklyn, before you joined. Absolutely. Awesome. Lulu, I'm going to throw it to you for a bit because you've been working as a full-time dev for some time now. Can you tell us a little bit about how developers work together to build products?
Yeah, I think Karen actually touched a little bit on this. She talked about pairing, she talked about working together, but also I did also want to mention a little bit about what Brooklyn said earlier about like how she's worked a lot with UX and product, and it's not just developers that you work with. You tend to work with a whole slew of people who have like expertises in a very different areas, which is really interesting because you really get to learn from a lot of people when you work together as a team. But specifically for developers, there are really a lot of ways that we work together. One of the main ways that Karen mentioned was pair programming. There are a lot of ways to do this, but one of my most favorite ways is called mob programming, where you kind of have this whole group of people that you get into a room and you just go at it. And you really get to learn about how other people think, how other people use different tools to make their software development experience more efficient. And it's just like a really, really great way to learn and to build something together. But outside from that, there's a lot of collaboration in terms of whenever I have a problem, which is like every day, and I'm learning something new, you can just throw a question in Slack, which is what the platform that we use for messaging to really reach out to other people, to ask other people for help. And so really like software development isn't like, I feel like a lot of people have that idea where you're like in the basement, you're programming by yourself, but it's really not like that. You're really like surrounded by people who are there to help you and are there to work together. And like you guys work together on tech reviews, and at the very end when you ship something, you just like, you know, celebrate all together. And so it's a really big group effort.
I love that you made that comment about being in the basement because I actively tell people that a developer who just wants to be in like a dark basement and never talk to anybody else is probably not going to thrive at Shopify because of the nature of the way we work together and get work done. So I'm glad to know that I'm not lying about that, Lulu, when I make those jokes. Ashwin, I'd love to hear from you a little bit. You know, you're almost at the end of your dev degree journey specifically. What do you see as the benefits of coming through a program like dev degree compared to maybe some other traditional paths into computer science or software development?
Yeah, there's so many. Where do we start? So I guess the first one is in dev degree, we have a cohort of people who come in at the same time as you. That's definitely one of the best aspects of it. There's so many times where I had just relied on my cohort for, working on assignments together on university or chatting about life at Shopify. And it's really just like a whole community. And I know in my first year as well, I found that there is also a lot of parallels between the work that you do at university and also the work that you did on your training path and on your teams. There's so many times where I'm able to refer to stuff that I learned in university or stuff that I learned in the training path and apply them at Shopify or at university. Another aspect is also financially. I didn't have to worry about my tuition whatsoever, and I can just continue with my university learning and Shopify. Another benefit of Dev Degree is also the support that you get from the Dev Degree team. There are some amazing humans. They support your learning. They always answer your questions, and you can go to them whenever you need to, and they help you out with anything you need. And then from a developer standpoint, there's also, you get to explore so many different like team placements. You get 4 team placements, and you can explore whatever area that you're curious in, whether it's like front end, back end security, prod eng, or mobile. Or you can even go into like 3 different areas and hone in on one area that you really, really like. And throughout this entire process as well, the Dev Degree team supports you as well, and you can also chat with other interns about their experience as well. So there's just some of the benefits of Dev Degree.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashwin. Now, you alluded to the training path, and since I lead that team, I cannot resist an opportunity to talk like 2 seconds about that, which is the first 8 months when you join Dev Degree, where we teach you both developer skills and foundational skills that help accelerate your impact at Shopify. And that's where Danielle and I work in supporting all of our interns as they come into Dev Degree. Now I think it's time we take some of your questions and throw these out to our panelists here. So Brooklyn, I am going to return to you just a little bit here because somebody asked the question, and I'm going to read it verbatim. I'm hoping to change career paths and was wondering if anyone on the panel had done the same and what their experience was like in Dev Degree. Now, you did touch on this a little bit, but is there anything else you would want to share? And certainly, if anybody else on the call has changed career paths, we'd love to hear from you too.
Yeah, so I am actually also a part of the first cohort of students in Dominican University, which has, I would say, a larger proportion of students who are doing a career switch because it's an accelerated program. And because of that, like I've seen how many people can successfully make the career shift into becoming a developer. So I was a college counselor. 2 of my best friends on the Dev Degree team were an architect and a nutritionist. So I would say that, you might not come in with all of the technical skills that everyone else has in your cohort, but you're coming in with so many non-technical skills that are also really, really important. I would say the most important thing is resourcefulness and, finding ways to get the information that you need. If you're resourceful, you will be successful as a developer. And then if you are coming in with a ton of technical skills and you don't have a lot of the non-technical skills, Curtis and Giselle are going to help you with that throughout the training path too. So you really get help with everything in becoming a developer through this program.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooklyn. Anybody else want to talk about sort of their journey or changing career paths? I mean, Danielle and I can do that, but we're not developers. Cool. I'm going to come back to you, Lulu. What happens after you complete your degree? The question is there an opportunity to move into a full-time position at Shopify? But you did that. So there is an opportunity, but do you maybe want to tell us a little bit about that transition for you?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this question is specifically talking about after Dev Degree or after any internship. I will talk about Dev Degree a little bit, just because that was my experience. So after doing my 4 separate placements at Shopify, I was really able to do just about anything that I wanted to do. There's not really any restrictions on what, how you want to define what you want to do. So I had many options of, applying to other places, other companies or doing a post-grad. Honestly, you can honestly do whatever you want. But for me personally, I really enjoyed actually many of my placements at Shopify, which is really the defining factor to why I decided to stay at Shopify and continue my growth here. And so a little bit of what happened was I talked to, throughout the 4 years of being at Shopify, you meet like so many people. And so you have so many people to talk to. And so I reached out to a bunch of different people that I didn't even have placements on, but I knew that I was interested on working on their team. And I was able to have some really good conversations with a lot of leads, which is another word for manager here at Shopify. And so I had a lot of opportunities to learn and really get to see what I might be interested in. And then I started to have those conversations with the dev degree team. Actually, Tristan, who's in the background, I had a lot of conversations with him, and we were really able to get me going in terms of accepting an offer and all that fun stuff. Also, I took 2 months break, so that was really great. After 4 years of doing the best I can, I was able to just relax. And so there are a lot of opportunities, even outside of work, really, when you finish your degree.
So, Lulu, you don't have to go into a ton of detail, but like, what was one of the factors in deciding what you wanted to do when you were done, like the degree and the internships? Like, what was one thing that you considered?
Is this between teams, or is this just like my decision very generally in terms of like if I wanted to?
I think whatever you think our lovely guests would like to know. I have known you for a couple of years, and I have the most trust in your answer.
Got it. All right, I'm going to give you the worst answer I can think of. No, I did want to say that I did want to mention two things, because these were the two things that I was really thinking about a lot when I was making this decision. The first thing are the people. You can think about all the technical things and all that jazz, but at the end of the day, when I worked with people who I loved working with, who I trusted, that made a really big difference in terms of how comfortable I was as a developer. And I knew that the more comfortable I would be, the more risks I would take, the more questions I would ask, the more I will grow. And so being able to connect with those people was a really big thing. Is it a culture fit? Do I feel like every time I go to work, I'm jazzed to, have chats with my team? And that was something that I really considered. And the second thing that I also considered is I tried a bunch of disciplines and I really liked a couple of them. And so it's hard for me to be like, do I want to do production engineering or do I want to do front end, which are very different. And so I really had to do a lot of introspection in terms of like, what am I really interested in? What expertise do I want to really develop? And I ended up choosing production engineering because I realized that I was just super curious about infrastructure and about system design. And so that's how that decision went.
Awesome. I knew you'd have a great answer for that one. Ashwin, we work remotely at Shopify. We work what is called digital by design, which is super cool because Danielle and I can work on the same team, and I'm in Ontario and she's in Vancouver. So tell us a little bit about your remote working experience. Are there opportunities for dev degree interns to stay in touch and stay connected to each other socially?
Yeah, my remote experience has been completely smooth. And there are a ton of opportunities here in Dev Degree that lets you, stay in touch with your fellow peers. We have this thing called social connection budget, which is, they give you a set amount of money each semester that allows you to connect socially and do things together. I know recently the Carlton folks, we went paintballing with my cohort. We have regular dinners together. So that's definitely awesome, and that's definitely a way that we're able to catch up with everything that's going on top of, obviously seeing each other in our classes. We also have this thing called Sidekicks, where every week we're kind of matched up with other Shopify folk and other dev degree interns, and this is a way that lets us stay in touch with people that we haven't maybe seen in a while. So yeah, those are just a few of the ways that we just were able to stay connected, and yeah.
At the risk of catching somebody totally off guard, Brooklyn, you don't attend school in person. You work pretty far from a lot of other interns and other Shopify folk. How do you stay connected to other folks and keep up your social relationships?
That is a great question. I don't think I actually said this in my intro, but I live in Hilo, Hawaii, which is the most isolated island chain in the world. So I am physically very far apart from everyone who I work with. I've been amazed by how easy it's been to work remotely, and also in a lot of ways easier than working in person, because everything's in Slack. It's very easy to come back to something, come back to a conversation later on and maintain that context in the future. With my classmates, I would say, because like we're all in the same classes the whole time, we're really a tight-knit group, and we have our classes together every day. We were on the training path every day for 8 months together, and then the first thing we did when we're out of class or off training path was like, hey, do you want to pair program on something, and using all of the tools that we have digitally to do that. And additionally, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, just social time built into the calendar. I would say that because Shopify is remote, there's almost a more intentional emphasis put on connection than there would be in person. So yeah, all of the Slack channels, both the serious ones and the fun ones, all of the calls, the serious and the fun, like there's a lot of both here. And I've felt really connected. I even have some of my friends are like coming to visit me next year and run around Hawaii together. So these are people I've never met in real life, but I feel like they're some of my best friends right now.
My invite must have gotten lost in the mail. But Brooklyn, does work adapt to your time zone, or do you adapt to the way we work here?
Actually, I would say, my team was very open to letting me choose a schedule that worked for me. For me, that did mean like working an earlier schedule than most. I start at 6:30 in the morning and work till about 11:30 or 12 every day. I love that because it gives me all of my afternoons. I used to work a job that exclusively consumed my afternoons and evenings, so the switch has been wonderful for me. But there's a lot of flexibility. You have a lot more, like, you have less control of your schedule on the training path, I will say. You'll have to move things around accordingly for your time zone. But beyond that, once you're on placement, you can negotiate that with your team, and everyone's already in different time zones. So it's not usually a huge barrier.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooklyn. So, Karen, we've heard from Brooklyn that you don't really need a whole lot of experience to become an intern, to join the Dev Degree program. But we always get a ton of questions around like, what skills can we start growing and accumulating? What can we learn if we want to pursue being a developer longer term? So we'd love to hear from you. What skills would you recommend that folks start working on if they want to have a career as a developer?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because like Brooklyn was saying, there are a lot of non-technical skills that will help you get very far as in your developer career. And it's really true, right? I mean, being a developer is just another job, and similar to any other job, there's just a lot of skills that are transferable when they're non-technical. I think I saw someone asking like what non-technical skills are we talking about here? So let me try being a bit more specific. Resourcefulness, like Brooklyn was saying, was definitely one. Like as a developer, you don't have all the solutions to everything, and that's exactly why you're there, because you need to solve those problems. So sometimes trying to solve those problems will lead you finding more problems and figuring out how to solve those. So like I was saying, like those little pieces of puzzles, like you sometimes the pieces are not on the table and you got to find them. And that requires asking the right questions, knowing where to look, reading error messages properly, small things like that, and that'll get you very far. On top of that, communication skills. Like I was saying, day to day, a lot of it is, you're coding, but then you're also reviewing other people's code and you're also in meetings. Doing those two other things require you to be communicating in a lot of different ways. Sometimes you'll be doing that, in meetings, so it's by voice, so you'll be able to be well spoken in what you're saying so that people can understand you. And then a lot of times in a remote space also, you will be doing that through the internet, right? Like through Slack messaging systems, project management tools like GitHub. You'll need to be very communicative there for people to really understand your point. And you know, you can write your code, but you need to be able to explain why you wrote that code and why you write it that way, which is very important. Or else maybe that code won't be going anywhere if not.
I feel like I planted that question because those are totally the things we work with our first year interns on, including those who just started in September. Communication being super important. Um, and I'm going to steal that puzzle analogy. Like, you need to solve a puzzle, but sometimes the pieces aren't even on the table. Like, pff, mind blown. Genius. Well done. Thank you, Karen, for that wisdom. Ashwin, I'm going to come back to you. Could you share, a few things that have been most vital to your growth as a developer at Shopify? Things that future developers should look for in their learning opportunities?
Yeah, a few things I would say is one, take ownership and initiative of your learning. If you find something or see something that's really cool, like feel free to ask your mentor or lead if you can take that on, or even pair programming with somebody and just even chat with them. If you feel that there's an area that you want to become better at, at Shopify we have professional development fees, and so what happens is we can spend money to improve ourselves as developers and the things that we work on day to day. And then the next thing is have a growth mindset. Don't be afraid to take on challenges. They're there to help you grow. And at Shopify, you have a ton of support systems, whether it's the DevDegree team, your mentor, your lead, and other folks on your team as well. And it's completely okay if you don't know something. And yeah, just being okay with that and asking people if you need help and being willing to ask for that. Another thing I would recommend is also like good time management. It's important to have a good balance between school and work, being able to time box yourself with problems that you're solving on a day-to-day basis. But also most importantly, make time for yourself. This program is year round. It's demanding, so make sure you take care of yourself as you're going through this and giving yourself a breather. And then probably the last thing I'd say is making connections. Make connections here at Shopify. The people here are awesome. As a dev degree intern, go to that social time. You get to meet so many people, and you'll never know. You'll never know when they'll come in handy or you'll see them again. So those are just a few things I'd say that have been vital to my growth at Shopify.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ashwin. Lulu, having gone through a several year internship program, did you do 4 placements, 4 different teams, right? After doing all of that, did you feel prepared to work in any area of the industry that you might have wanted to after completing your degree?
I want to say yes, but with some conditions. For sure, I was way more comfortable with working in like a back-end role or a front-end role or in production engineering, because those were really the ones that I spent a lot of time developing during my placements. So obviously, those are the ones that I kind of gravitated towards. But at the same time, a lot of the things that you learn while you're doing internships, really at any company, is not only just the technical experiences and expertise, but you also learn how to learn. If that's not a great way to say it, but you get really good at getting thrown a problem that you don't know anything about, and being really good at knowing who to ask and where to find things, and knowing what parts are more ambiguous, so you really need to focus on. And so you get really good at problem solving, and those skills don't just leave you. Those skills stay with you for a very long time. And so if I wanted to join do something completely different, like work in machine learning or something like that, I would have had to put more time and energy into it, just like how I did with all the other things. But this probably sounds a bit cocky, but I don't think it would have been it would have been harder than doing what I said in terms of the other ones. But at the same time, I don't think it was impossible at all. If I wanted to do it, I could, because of all the skills and resources that I learned to use throughout my internships.
Awesome. Thank you, Lulu. So this is the portion of the session where Tristan will regret inviting me to host because I'm going to go rogue. And I have a question that I'm supposed to only ask one person, but I'm going to ask all of our panelists. So I would love to hear from all of you. What is the most challenging aspect of a career as a developer? Or if you're still in your internship phase, what's the most challenging aspect of being an intern? Karen, I was supposed to only ask you, so I will go to you first, but everybody better be ready. Karen, what do you got for us?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is that there's always too much to do, and then try to explain what that means. Um, well, first of all, you're working with software, so it's something that's always changing. Your requirements are changing. Sometimes you're you're dealing with old things, and then you gotta keep them going, you know. Um, so there's always a lot of work, and there's always a lot of knowledge to filter through. So you have to be patient with yourself, and you have to understand that you cannot do everything, right? Like, first of all, workday is like 8 hours. So you need to fit that through. You need to prioritize what's important to do. As you're working through, you'll notice that, you know, the bigger the projects that you work on, the bigger the teams that you're on, maybe the more ask that you'll have coming from left and right. This can all happen, and it's really important to know, you know, what should I be doing today exactly? What should I be working on that brings the most value? Because there will always be something to build. There will
Mm,
always be something to fix. And actually, like, um, in this developer world, there's something that we call tech debt, technical debt. And it's pretty much when you write code and then suddenly no one maintains that code, or maybe you wrote that code fast to make sure you just ship the product that you want to ship, and then comes later, maybe it wasn't the best code that you've written and you've carried on some debt. So, um, you know, was it worth it or not? You need to kind of weigh out those options. So yeah, there'll always be something to do. So prioritize your time right.
mhm. I love that you said, what can I work on that's going to have the most impact? That's totally how we do things at Shopify. There's always something that we could be doing, but what's going to make sort of the biggest impact and improve our products for those who are using them. Awesome, Karen. Thanks for the pivot. I'd love to hear from Ashwin now. What is the most challenging thing either about your internship journey or about being a developer?
Yeah, I definitely want to say being okay with not knowing everything. Uh, you need to be able to know how to use the knowledge that you have gained and how you can figure out and solve a problem. So whether this means taking some time to figure out the problem, what aspects we need to worry about, and do some research across Shopify or whether online, or even just finding someone who on your team uh, or who has context, and gaining that context and using that. So that's definitely like one of the things that I over the years I've been here at Shopify, like I've gotten better at, and yeah.
Awesome.
I did want to add,
Lulu wants to talk. Let's hear it.
it's something very similar to what Ashton said, but I think I just want to like zoom out a little bit and like kind of compare the developer experience compared to other disciplines, and something that isn't necessarily very specific to developers, but is something that like development is very much so, and it changes a lot. Like if you've worked in front end engineering anytime during Shopify in the last 4 years, the tech stack has changed. We're using different things, and there's a lot of change happening a lot, and sometimes you go to a different company and they do a whole bunch of different things differently, and you're going to have to learn how to do that. And that can be quite challenging sometimes if you're someone who's very comfortable and knows that you know all the things you need to know. But in most times, when you're a developer, you will be put in situations where you don't know all the things that you need to know, and you have to be okay with that, and you have to be able to like take that and run with it. And that is, I think, one of the most challenging parts of being a developer, is just thriving in this environment where you're just okay that you're not, like, you don't feel comfortable all the time, or you feel like you're constantly changing up things and learning new things. But at the same time, it's also why the discipline is so fun, so challenging, so exciting, and so impactful.
Awesome. Thanks, Lulu, for jumping in there. Brooklyn, what's a challenge you'd like to share?
Something that has been challenging me lately is just working on solving problems in code that was written by someone else. As I said before, like there's a lot of ways to do the same thing. And when you join a team, all of a sudden you go from building your own projects or building a project from the very beginning with 2 or 3 other people where, you've scoped it out, you've defined everything to, okay, someone on the UX team noticed this bug, go in and fix it. And it may take 30 minutes or it may take 3 weeks. So scoping things can be really challenging. And then also just trying to put yourself in the mindset of someone else when they wrote that code. I think that there was an expectation that I'd be like typing really fast and like aggressively coding, and I code a lot slower than I thought I would. And I probably read 10 times more than I write code. It's a lot of reading, trying to understand what was there before, and then taking an action and making changes. So that's my current challenge.
I mean, I think that's pretty brilliant insight for someone who's been working part-time for 6 months as a developer. Like, I'm super impressed and also proud because I welcomed Brooklyn into the program. So I'm very proud to hear how she's doing now. I'm going to put actually Brooklyn and Ashlyn on the spot a little bit because you're both still in your internship experience. And so you're taking courses as part of your dev degree program. And you're at 2 different schools. So, Ashlyn, I'll come back to you first. How much overlap has there been, or is there in general, between what you're learning in your university classes in computer science and what you're actually learning, or what technologies you're using on your internship?
Yeah, I can answer that first. So there's definitely a ton of overlap, and definitely in my first 2 years, especially, I found that there was a ton of overlap. In terms, I found that when I was on the training path, I was able to apply a bunch of the things that I learned on things that I did at Carleton. I learned about web development in my first semester on the training path, and then I was able to apply that on my second semester at Carleton. And similarly, I was able to do the same vice versa through Carleton and Shopify. And because of that, it really reinforced a lot of the things that I was learning. So I was able to get a good understanding of it at Shopify or at Carleton, and then build upon that and learn more things on top of it, or just kind of reinforce the fundamentals of it. And that just only helped me get a better understanding of the really small and granular things of concepts and stuff like that. So I definitely found that to be extremely helpful.
Awesome. And Brooklyn, how about your experience at Dominican University? Is there a lot of overlap between the content there and what you're working on here?
Yes, definitely. So Dominican University's program is different than a traditional four-year university. It's an applied computer science program. And it actually, the school came out of a Y Combinator startup. So as you can imagine, it's, just very practical. Like every assignment that we do is, in a GitHub repo. And so from the very beginning, we were working the way that we would work in an actual dev environment. The languages overlap a lot that we're learning. I mean, we focus on JavaScript and React on the front end. The difference for a backend student would be that you're working in Python at school and then working in Ruby at Shopify, but those actually overlap quite a bit as well. So it's pretty seamless, and there's no math classes, which I actually like math, but I know for some people that's a perk.
Yeah, our Carleton and York students in the first year definitely don't love those math courses. That's always the pain point. We have less than 10 minutes, which means it's time for another Curtis is Gonna Go Rogue moment. And Lulu, I'm coming to you first. I would love to hear from folks, what is the most fulfilling aspect about working as a software developer?
I think for me, at least, this is such a general answer, but I'm going to say it anyways. As a software developer, you have a lot of potential in terms of making a lot of impact on people. For example, there was one time when I built an app, well, with my team. Obviously, I didn't build this myself. With my team, I built the Offset app, which is a third-party app that merchants can install on their stores. And what it does is, because we have so much information about where you're shipping things, we can actually calculate approximately how much carbon you're emitting by shipping your orders, and we will actually offset that for you, which will mean you'll purchase carbon credits, and you'll really give back to the community and the environment. And building that and seeing how merchants reacted to that and used it on their day to day was just like one of those moments where you're like, man, I did that. Like, I built that and put that into the world. And that's just one of the so many other examples of, you're toiling every day, you're dealing with hard problems, but at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're helping, at least for me at Shopify, is helping merchants succeed and have their make money, but also just like make an impact on the community and the economy, and just like that aspect of how you have an impact as a software developer is something that really fulfills me and keeps me going.
Very cool. Brooklyn, what are you find most fulfilling so far?
I would say it's the fact that if you can think of something, then you can build it. So I'm a very creative person. I have a lot of ideas, way more ideas than any sane person should have. And the thing that's been very satisfying is that, any sort of tangible idea I have, there's all these barriers to building it. But if I have an idea for something in the digital space, it's just me and time standing between building that. So that's been really exciting on my team. Also, it's valued at our company. And so you're encouraged to bring your ideas to the table. I've heard that, at other companies, that's not always the case. It's kind of a top down, they tell you what to write and you build that. At Shopify, it definitely seems like everyone's kind of across the same level. Even as an intern, I feel like I'm able to bring input to my team, and it is taken seriously and taken into consideration. And sometimes it gets worked into the product, and that's really, really cool. Yeah, that's definitely the most rewarding part of it for me.
Very cool. Ashwin, how about you? What fulfills you so far?
Definitely that feeling once you've solved a really challenging problem. I definitely love that feeling once I'm done with it. I've shipped it, and for me, I've really just liked kind of going after a challenging problem, jumping into the deep end. I really enjoyed that process of the people that you get to meet as you're kind of working through a challenging problem, the people that you pair with and learn from, and then actually solving it and figuring out the best solution for merchants. So yeah.
Awesome. Karen, last but certainly not least, could you tell us what you find most fulfilling about being a developer?
Honestly, I just want to piggyback off of everyone's answers here, because the reason, how I get fulfilled is pretty much for all the reasons that were listed above. But yeah, mostly being able to solve big problems, like Ashwin is saying. You often will start with something that you're like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what I need to know to make this happen, and be able to slowly break it down and work through it, and then see it actually turn into a product that people can use, is incredible.
Awesome. Danielle, I'm putting you on the spot. What do you find most fulfilling about working on Dev Degree and with Dev Degree interns who are becoming developers?
Ooh, that is a very good question, Curtis. I would say one of the most things I find fulfilling is the opportunity to get to see folks at the beginning of their journey. And I know I am new to this team here in Dev Degree, but even in the last, 3 months since we've had our 2022 cohort join us, just getting to see that progress and really getting to see folks, I think, begin to actualize that they can do this work. Even for folks who may have never touched a line of code. I know, Brooklyn, you had mentioned that earlier, and just getting to see their journey. And also, selfish plug, the Dev Degree team is really great too. So getting to work with folks like Curtis makes coming to this job every day truly like the best.
I think one of the really cool things about like becoming a developer, whether you do it through a program like Dev Degree or otherwise, is how quickly you pick up new skills and grow and go from I don't even know what is on my computer screen to I made that arrow move back and forth, and everyone who wants to start a store has to press that arrow. And I use that story because when I first joined Shopify, I had a one-on-one with an intern on her first placement. And I asked her to tell me about herself. And she said, let me show you something. And she took me to the Shopify homepage and scrolled down to like where people sign up to start their store. And she says, see that arrow? I made that arrow move. And I was like, oh, like you made that arrow? She's like, no, no, no. The arrow was already there, but I made it move back and forth. And that is the kind of impact you can have within just a year going through a program like Dev Degree and on your journey to becoming a software developer. Folks, we are at the end of our time. Tristan, unless you have anything to say from the background where you are lurking, I am going to bid farewell to our guests. I know there were a ton of questions, a lot of Dev Degree specific questions in the chat that we could not answer. Our email is info@devdegree.ca. So please submit those questions, especially if they are application related questions. Tristan loves to answer the emails that come into that inbox. So please use it. And we're sorry we didn't get to every question, but you certainly will get your questions answered if you send us an email. There it is again, info@devdegree.ca. Thank you so much for joining us, guests. And thank you so much, Dev panelists. Thank you so much for telling us about your journey, your trajectory, and sharing all of your wisdom. Bye, friends.